Alright, hello everyone. I'm Sean, and by my side, as usual, is Steven for MTG Mafia. We're taking a look at Black Red Zombies and Naya. This is my buddy Willie. Steven was too busy this week to get this done, but we want to showcase this deck, so Willie stepped in and helped us out. He's going to start off with a bird here. Steven, you want to talk about playing? We've played this matchup a bunch, so what are your thoughts as far as being a pod player against zombies?
Um, well, in my opinion, I think obviously with Naya pod or any pod deck, you want to get as far ahead as possible in card advantage and any sort of advantage. Um, so you definitely want to start off with your birds. Like start with any sort of ramp, get any ramp you can off the table because zombies will beat you down if they get a stable board online. If they start getting like three creatures and including blood artists, you are really getting close to being in trouble just because of the amount of life. Like all that life adds up super quick, and then your opponent's gaining life on top of that, making it super difficult to catch back up. So I think definitely starting off with some sort of ramp is super important against zombies.
Yeah, and another thing that's interesting, you may have seen the Naya pod list we posted a couple weeks ago, which was actually Steven's deck. And Steven's deck is faster than Willie's. Willie's is more of a traditional pod that goes more for like a value plan. He's on more of like an acidic slime and Titan, kind of a late game. Whereas Steven's deck, it beats down with swords and does a lot more stuff in the early game. But one thing to note is Birthing Pod. We were talking about whether or not you can cast it. I mean, Steven, what do you think about that?
Um, After a lot of discussion, a lot of play testing, having Birthing Pod at hand against zombies, I've quickly decided that having Birthing Pod against zombies is bad. Just because you take the time, take a whole turn to cast Birthing Pod if you do it early in the game, and zombies just do what they're going to do, is like pump another zombie out, you're going to take more damage. If you try to do Birthing Pod on turn 2, you're going to ping yourself, you pay the Phyrexian mana for 2 life, and that just helps zombies toward their goals even faster. Plus, sacking a creature with if they have Blood Artists online is even more damage. You're just giving them more life. You definitely need to have a different plan against zombies.
Yeah. So this is a really slow start for this deck. I've got one Grave Crawler, and I'm not doing enough. I'm gonna tap out and get a messenger here, which is good, but this is a really slow hand and probably not one that I should have kept. I'm not sure why I kept it, but I did. I don't know. Went with my gut. We did this video pretty early in the morning. One thing that is cool in this video, we have some proxies. M13 was not available to us yet when we recorded, and we were just planning for the core set coming out, which is going to be available this Friday. And so you're going to see Abattoir Ghoul in some of these. He's Disciple of Bolus, and the card is amazing. It's awesome. You'll get to see it in some of these games. As far as this game goes, I'm in a ton of trouble here. He's just gone turn 4 Inferno Titan, and to my 5 permanent board, that's pretty devastating. I'm tapping almost completely out to play Blood Artist, which is going to do me next to nothing. Hope that a Tragic Slip bluff does something, but it won't. Yeah, there's not much I can do at this point, but we'll watch the rest of the game anyway. My outs are essentially block a bunch, hope I can hit some good removal next turn, and somehow stabilize and still be able to do enough damage. So
This is kind of like the board positioning. Like as a Naya pod player, like I enjoy being in this position. Like it's super hard to get into this board position where you got Titan on line and you're about to swing next turn, because every time I've gotten Titan online, there's always this sick feeling in the back of my head that he's got Tragic Slip. If I shoot one of his creatures, he's just going to slip my Titan, and I'm not going to get any damage in. But in this current position, he's tapped out. It's pretty much a heyday for Naya pod. You just go for it and just have a blast with it, pretty much.
Yeah, and the thing that really cost me, that puts me essentially at next to no outs, is that I missed a land drop that turn. The deck runs two Zealous Conscripts for situations just like this, but missing a land drop, being stuck on 3 lands, pretty devastating. If I had hit my land drop, I believe I have Zealous in my hands right now, and there's just no way I'm going to play it. And the thing I need to do is, play a land the last turn, top deck a land, play it, and Conscripts is Titan. Anytime that you take a Titan, you're pretty close to just being assured of victory. I'm in terrible shape here. He just plays Silverheart. He thinks about soul bonding it to the Geist, and then realizes, hey, zombies can't really deal with a flyer very well, so let's get this done. And I think that's the right call. I'm just in tons of trouble, even though my Blood Artist is going to do a little bit of work. There's not any chance that I'm going to win this game at this point. So he's taking my guys out. It's Blood Artist, going to do a little bit of draining, a little bit of life gain, but I'm just losing a ton. So we resolve the drain, and then we're going to go to damage here.
I guess a cool concept just to remember, like if you ever get in an awkward situation against like a green-red aggro player playing Wolfhair Silverheart, the soul bond mechanic is only as long as the player controls the creature. So as soon as you Zealous Conscripts Silverheart or the bonded creature is bonded with, that bond is broken, and kind of puts him in an awkward spot at that point. Like Wolfhair is back to a 4/4 or whatever. Like just kind of cool combat situation to think about in the future for when you have to.
Yeah, and that was essentially just I just scooped there. That was a Disciple. I just played it because it's like my favorite card in the deck. So I would have gained 4 life, drawn 4 cards. I had no outs. It was a concession, but I just wanted to do it for fun. Let's go to game 2 and check it out. All right, here we are. We're taking a look at game 2. Just wanted to let you guys know we filmed probably 9 games this night, and really wanted to showcase the power of the deck and not just show you a best of 3. As far as the night went, I think it was 6-3 for zombies. The matchup's pretty good against Pod, pretty consistent, but you're gonna notice that Willie takes the play again here, even though he won the last game. It's not because we're bad at Magic. It's because we want to show you guys what the decks can do. So Willie's going to start again, and this is a pretty cool game here. So there's a lot of times where this deck, you're going to open up a hand and you're going to have 3 to 4 1-drops. The deck can do really crazy stuff with 1 to 2 lands. Steven and I have played games, and just a little while ago, I happened to beat him with 2 lands in play while he was on 7. The deck just has very efficient creatures, very efficient spells, and it just has a lot of reach. So it's very cool, but it's also designed to have a late game with Disciple and Conscripts. Obviously, you never want to be on 2 lands, but just there are times where you're going to be there, and it's okay. You'll be all right. So I attack him with Crawler. There's another thing you'll notice. I didn't play my land, so now I'm going to play Diregraph. I play a land, I get my guy back. It may have looked like I maybe didn't have another land, and that's something. Don't give your opponent any information that you don't need to. The less information you give them, the harder their decisions become. In that situation, he might have thought, hey, he doesn't have a land, I can kill this Gravecrawler. He might have another Gravecrawler, but then it's going to take him a whole nother turn to get that Crawler back, and it's going to take him a long time. If he's on 1 land, I got this. And so they might make a decision that is not in their best interest, and then you can play your land second main and really take advantage of that. So always remember, give your opponent as little information as possible, and sometimes maybe you want to throw that land out early to bluff something or try to throw them off. But typically that's a good rule of thumb.
Exactly. There have been multiple games where I've, on turn 2, have my second land in play. I would green send for a Bird of Paradise, giving the impression to my opponent that I was starved for mana. He would then, on his turn, proceed to Pillar of Flame my bird, and then, having no more mana open to play a 2-drop creature or anything, he would pass back to me, and then I would play my 3rd land, and then play, to his surprise, my third land, and then play Blade Splicer, and then proceed to like out tempo him with then Huntmaster, and then a 6 slime blowing up his land. Like it's amazing how just like giving the impression that you're mana screwed can really get you ahead in the game.
So I play Blood Artist. Blood Artist is awesome against Pod. So I play that here again, holding my land back. But this exchange, essentially, my Diagraph goal is still good for 2, because he's going to have to trade a guy to block, and it's doing a ton of work. So Blood Artist in this matchup, because Naya relies so heavily on its creatures, and even green red aggro, it's so creature based to get the job done that Blood Artist really gets you a lot of advantage in the exchange. When you get ahead on life and you're gaining life while they're draining life, it just does a lot of work. So I really like the card. I really think it's cool. I don't think you'll get to see it in any of these games. Killing Wave, also just a bomb. When you get Blood Artist or double Blood Artist and there's like 7-8 guys on the board and you can Killing Wave for like 3 even, it puts your opponent in a terrible spot, and it really gives you a chance to really drain them for a bunch of life, or force them to sacrifice if you're ahead on life, knowing you're going to gain a bunch. Go ahead and pay the life for your guys and start bashing through. It's almost as good as a bonfire in the right situation. So
Yeah, it's just all about making the deck the way it works. Like Killing Wave in its own, like if you just try to slap that into just any deck, it's not quite as good. But in this deck, like there's just so much synergy with zombies that it's just like a natural inclusion. Like it's, for the most part, it just wins you games like in the right situation, just a blowout pretty much.
So we trade Diagraph for Strangleroot there, and he copied my Blood Artist to essentially just slow the bleeding, and probably not a terrible idea, but just to show you the power of Blood Artist, wasting a clone to slow the just drain effects. It's not a great exchange. It's not a great way to use your Metamorph, but I'm not saying it's the wrong play here. I don't know Willie's hand, but I think it just shows you the power in all the games that we played. Blood Artist was doing so much work, and so I think anytime you can stop that bleeding and just put an extra guy on the board, it's pretty good for you. So Messenger setting up, doing some draining, and Willie's in a tough spot here. I've got him to the point where his life is getting pretty fragile at being at 10, and I'm at 22. Every guy that he puts onto the board, he's got to consider a Killing Wave. He's got to consider Bonfire. There's a lot of things that go into this. So I think he's in an okay spot here, but like not attacking with your Zealous, not an ideal situation, but he did it there just to get a body on the field, did some damage. We're in a pretty commanding spot here as the zombie deck. The other thing that's cool about this deck, if you guys, when I was like in 2nd grade, I remember having flashcards for math, and our teacher used to have us go around the room and do flashcards, and I was always the champ at flashcards. I loved that, and it was a ton of fun. And I'm not just getting my brag on here. I say that because if you like math and the mathematical side of Magic, this deck is so numbers based. There's a lot of times where you'll sit and you'll have to do 4 or 5 quick equations, try to figure out which is your best route to get in the most damage and the most efficient way to do things. It's really fun. I really enjoy the math, and so I really enjoy this deck. I'm not saying I always make the right decision. There's times where I overlook something because I play too fast, or I'm new enough to the deck that I'll still miss something on occasion. But it's really fun if you enjoy that challenge and just sitting down and trying to choose the best decision tree. So I really recommend it in that sense. It makes it a lot of fun to play. And like Steven was saying earlier, the synergy in the deck is absurd. The interaction between Disciple and Blood Artist and Geralt's Messenger and Gravecrawler, and the way the deck just synergizes so well with Mortar Pod, the things you can do in the deck, everything turning on your Morbid, your Tragic Slips and your Brimstones. It's just really good. And you can see this list if you're wondering, if you have questions on it. Check out our site. The list is posted there, and you can see what this does. So, okay, he's at 6. I'm going to draw 4, gain 4 off my Messenger with Disciple. This is the new guy out of M13. He is nuts. There's a couple times where you're going to play like a control deck. You're going to commit guys to the board, and if your hand's not super strong, you might wind up with a disciple on an empty board, which is when he's bad. Other than that, he is just ridiculous. So much advantage. When you gain 4 life, draw 4 cards, and reload as an aggro deck, it's really tough for your opponents to keep up. So I'm at, if you can't read the life totals, I'm at 23. Willie's at 6. Steven, what are you thinking here if you're Willie?
I think I'm in trouble right now. Pretty much the only thing that comes to mind right now that would save me would be like a miracle bonfire, or even holding a bonfire would work, but you're going to be putting yourself down to 2 life because like the 4 you take off of Blood Artist pinging you, and he does have Blood Artist like the clone effect, so that will negate that, so that would actually be an excellent play if he was able to rip Bonfire, but as of such, that's not happening. So right now, if I was playing, I'd be thinking like I'm going to lose this match, and it kind of sucks to say that, but there are just certain times where like a deck like this is just so good against your deck that there's not much. You just gotta play your best, make the best decisions, and learn from it, and slowly evolve your deck into like being a little bit less vulnerable to this kind of deck. I don't know yet how to do that with Naya, but when I come up with an idea, I'll let you know.
And Huntmaster is okay against this deck. It puts bodies on the board, gains you a little bit of life. But in the games that we did play, I think Huntmaster won Willie 1 game, and he got it out several other games, and I was still able to get past it. It's not a super big problem for me unless it spends a bunch of time flipping back and forth. Usually I can prevent that, but not always. So here we are. He's at 6. He just flashes in Restoration Angel, which is, I put that through my head as a possibility and figured he might bounce. And he's got a clone on the board, but I think my best play here was just to go all in if he's trading a bunch of guys, and if he takes his Blood Artist off, he's in a really bad spot either way. So I felt pretty good here to just bash in with all my guys, and he decides to leave the clone just for that reason, so he doesn't get drained, and I think that's probably a good call. And he goes to 4 here. So my Morbid is triggered. I'm going to play Brimstone, and the game's over. Let's check out game 3. All right, so we're back for game 3, and this game again, I believe you're going to see Willie start on the play, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, these are just games that showcase the decks better than anything else. Game 1, you saw Willie bust out an Inferno Titan super fast, which was brutal for me. And this game, you're just going to see zombies grinding it down again, like last game, and just doing work. So get to see some cool interactions. One thing that we were talking about is the possibility of Thragtusk. What do you think, Steven? I mean, as a pod player, what do you think of Thragtusk?
The heavens rejoice upon us as pod players, I believe.
Yeah, the card is the card is sweet. It's $15 for a reason right now, and I mean 5 life with a 5/3 that makes a 3/3. Whoa!
When it leaves play, not when it dies. When it leaves play, that's the answer against zombies. The answer against Delver. It's incredible. Like, to not play Thragtusk, if you're playing green, which you have to if you're playing Birthing Pod. If you're not playing Thragtusk, I'm hoping you got really good plans, because Thragtusk just kind of fits in so well with Pod.
Yeah, if you're a Pod player and you see Thragtusk, I hope you're receiving that high five from Wizards, because they definitely just gave you the coolest thing you can ever throw into a Pod deck. Steven and I are starting to brew, and we're putting together a little bit of a Jund pod. It does some really cool things. You're going to see new cards from the core set. We think the deck's pretty powerful. It does some really cool things. It's a little bit slower, a little bit grindier, but it has some unreal power with between cards like Thragtusk, the new dragon. What's the new dragon?
Thundermaw Hellkite, the 5/5 with for 5 with flying, haste, and when it enters the battlefield deals 1 damage to each creature. Each creature with flying your opponent controls. Tap those creatures. Amazing, like just like potting from a 4-drop into an instant 5 for damage if they don't have an answer that moment. On top of tapping or killing all their lingering souls or tapping their restoration angels and delvers. Amazing. This can be so good.
Cool. And just to get back to the game, I played Mortar Pod, shot a bird. Mortar Pod in this deck does some unreal things. It seems like a lackluster card when you first look at it, but it has incredible synergy in the deck. It turns on your Morbid. It's a removal spell. There's times where you just need something to die with Blood Artist. Let's say right now I have Blood Artist on the field. I can equip my messenger, throw my messenger at you, deal 2 damage. He comes back in, he deals 2 more damage. It has a lot of reach. Really cool. And I say 2 damage because the Blood Artist is going to drain as well when you throw your guy. But the card is really absurd. I went to 2. A lot of lists run 3. When I played 3 originally, and I kept finding myself drawing multiples of Mortar Pod. Not great as a multiple. As a one of, it's super sound, but when you're drawing multiples of Mortar Pod, you don't have enough tempo. You need this deck relies so much on the tempo that if you're drawing multiple Mortar Pods, you're probably gonna lose. So I cut it to 2. I like it at 2. The deck wins without it, but and this is the combination right here. Again, sacking my messenger, drain you for 2, draw 3 cards, gain 3 life, disciple a Bolus and messenger. Awesome. You just can't go wrong. So he's at 8 already, and we're on turn 4.
Like, Disciple is, well, it's bad news for pod players. Like, the whole plan to, like, my plan with my deck was hopefully, like, if we went to the late game, hopefully grind my opponent out to where, like, he had no more cards in hand, and then I'd feel free to, like, start just, like, comboing off with Birthing Pod, doing whatever I wanted. Disciple, drawing 3-4 cards on a Undying Grolf's Messenger, it ruins that plan. On top of gaining that life, I now have to look for a new way to beat zombies, because that's not going to work anymore. He's now just loaded up with like more answers, removal spells, more zombies, just more bodies, possibly more Blood Artists. It's just really bad news for pod players. So, well, we definitely gonna have to rely on our Thragtusk to win our games from here on out.
And the other interaction that's cool with Disciple that I don't think you see in any of these games is he's very good with Crawler on the board. It's not your ideal decision to sack, but still pretty good. You can go sack your guy, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life, play a zombie, play your Crawler back. If you're drawing multiple cards, your odds of hitting a zombie are very, very good, even if you don't have one on the board. This is actually a really cool interaction. I love what Willie did here. He blocks, then he has his clone come back, which has Undying because it was a messenger. When it comes back in, he makes a Disciple, he gains life, and he sacks his Strangle Root to make it stronger, and he draws himself some cards. Really solid play. Unfortunately, this game he's still behind, and you can look at this whole game at the end, and you can say, what was the turning point? The turning point's Disciple. Disciple is what wins me this game. We're racing, and it's pretty close. I play Disciple, I just get way ahead. So, but it really super cool interaction that Willie did there, and I just think that's a great play. So, Tragic Slip. I'm gonna take out his guy.
One thing that just like almost drove me insane with zombies was just watching this unreal synergy of Sean playing with 3 mana open. He played Mortar Pod. Like, I had a Titan out, I had a bird out. He plays Mortar Pod, shoots my bird. With Morbid triggered, he slips my Titan. I'm just like blown away by that. Like for how much I worked to get that Titan out, he just like in like two easy steps just kind of like dealt with my side of the board, and he still had more to pod to equip to another creature to have any answers and possibly trigger another morbid. Like it, I was not a happy camper at that point.
And cards that you didn't see that are in some of the other games we've played are obviously Bonfire of the Damned is really good. We didn't showcase the games that highlighted that card because I think we all know how good it is already. Once Titans kind of fell as the main card, the main win condition of like without ramp decks in the format, Bonfire is just a house. It deals with so many things. It's just a really really good card. So that's in there, and then Zealous Conscripts, pretty self-explanatory. It's one that you saw when we saw Steven's deck. If you haven't seen that, check out our Naya versus Bug matchup when he's playing Naya Pod, and you'll see him Zealous Conscripts some of my stuff and kill me with it. Zealous Conscripts is absurd, and I throw two of them in there because zombies in the late game, if it's not just crushing you early, and you get to a point where you're facing down a Titan, you need to be able to steal that Titan away. And for the game there, I've got a Messenger without Undying. Throw him at you, you lose 3, equip another guy, and throw him at you again. So that was game 3. Hope you enjoyed the deck tech, and just check out the site for the list, and we'll talk to you next time.